Good morning, Turks and Caicos. Welcome to First Edition. You know, for a little while I was thinking my guest this morning had deserted me. He hadn't been here for a while. But please help me say good morning to none other than our Deputy Premier and Minister of Immigration and Border Services, the Honourable Jamell Robinson. Honourable Robinson, good morning. Welcome to First Edition.
Good morning, Ms. Forman, and good morning, Turks and Caicos. It's definitely good to be back. It's been a long time. I see you haven't gotten your new co-hosts yet, but I guess you and Krista's working on that to make sure, you know, you get two people I can look at. But of course, it's always good to be in your pleasure to have a conversation with you.
So how have you been?
I've been excellent, actually. It's been pretty good, head down about the work, learning my new ministries, about 7 months in now. So I'm getting a better feel for some of the things we need to do, policies we need to continue, some we need to get to completion. So it's been an experience thus far.
Yeah. Now, Honourable Deputy Premier, we know usually when I sit to talk with you, an hour just isn't enough. So let's get right into it.
Yes.
You've recently written and spoken very strongly about putting Turks and Caicos Islanders first in our development agenda. Can you expand on what it means in practical terms, in terms of policy and opportunity and in measurable outcomes? What does it mean to be putting Turks and Caicos Islanders first?
Well, that means where we can position Turks and Caicos Islanders in every level. Whatever the avenue you want to partake in, there's something for you. If you want to be an entrepreneur, it means you can tap into the MSME program, which you can get up to over $50,000 worth of grants, and then, of course, various concessions. You have the business planning to help you modify and fine-tune whatever industry you want to be in. It means expanding all of the categories on the last term on which you can actually benefit from the concessions as well as the grants and so forth, because we want to make sure we give you the opportunity to empower if you want to be a business person. If you're a student, it's about ensuring we grow the scholarship fund for overseas funding. If it's you have studies that you can do locally, it's about lifelong learning. The Turks and Caicos Islands Community College is 100% free, tuition free for Turks and Caicos Islanders. So regardless of where you are in your career, whether just leaving school, whether you've been in the force, this time for continuous learning, lifelong learning, going to the community college. If you want job opportunities, that's ensuring in the civil service that you get opportunities for upward mobility. And frankly, we need to review the public service ordinance because there's a caveat that was put in post-interim administration, which doesn't allow for natural progression via promotion in the service. So every post has to be advertised and anybody can have it. That's something that didn't exist, and that's something that I might not be here if it existed at the time I entered the public service, where I was able to come directly from university and then take on a public service role. That means in the private sector, as Minister for Labor, ensuring that Turks Islanders get their proper opportunities. That's ensuring that our larger companies have succession plans to ensure that Turks and Caicos Islanders are given the opportunity to move up. Since announcing in the House of Assembly several months ago about meeting with the Turks and Caicos Hotel and Tourism Association, I've had a follow-up meeting with them where I basically had to lay the hammer down. It's like, listen, it's been nearly 3 months onward and I haven't gotten the succession plans. I can tell you since then I've gotten several succession plans. So now we're going to ensure from a labor standpoint that Turks and Caicos Islanders that are lined up to be moving up throughout the industries get their fair opportunity. So that's what empowerment looks like.
You almost answered my next question, because I was going to ask you how you envision Turks and Caicos Islanders not gaining jobs. We often say, yes, we get employment, but we don't seem to partake in the leadership roles. So you kind of answered that already, but how do you envision or ensure that Turks and Caicos Islanders do get leadership roles and long-term equity in our development?
Well, both. You train them and then you provide them with the opportunity. And you ensure that everybody who's at the table, whether it's government, employers, employees, knows that we're doing it for the benefit of the Turks and Caicos Islands. This isn't about, okay, well, I'm a company and I just want profits. So whoever can get me the profits, then I want that person to be employed with my my company. It's about nation building. So the best employee to have is a Turks Islander. The best owner to have is a Turks Islander within the Turks and Caicos Islands. I don't know what the case is in other countries, but for the Turks and Caicos, having the best employees amongst us, having the best employers amongst us is where we need to strive to go, and that's where we want to ensure that we set that path on, because at the end of the day, we're building the Turks and Caicos for Turks and Caicos Islanders primarily.
Yeah. If you're just joining us, we're having as our guest this morning the Deputy Premier of the Turks and Caicos Islands and Minister of Immigration and Border Services, the Honourable Jamell Robinson. And we all know he's always good for a conversation, so tune in if you haven't yet. Now, Honourable Robinson, since we're talking about employers and employees, the service charge bill has sparked a lot of discussion among workers and employers. What's your assessment of how effectively it'll be implemented? And will it meet, sir, the goal of putting more money in workers' pockets?
Well, on coming back into office and me taking on this role, what we did early on was we did a survey and we requested of specific organizations that implement service charge or participate in service charge. We wanted their feedback on how it was distributed over the previous 3 months. So that would have been October, November, December of last year. So we can look at it and get all the feedback. There was almost 700 persons that did the survey. So it was a wide, vast of thing. But one of the things that we noted, both from the information received on how it's being distributed, as well as the feedback, the one flaw that the service charge ordinance had was when they specifically took out the provision which said the service charge needed to be shared equally amongst all of the employees, right? So when you took that out, what happened as a result, it didn't give any specific direction for how employees or how employers were supposed to distribute it from the law standpoint. But the ordinance did allow the Minister of Labor to be able to recommend to the Commissioner formula or make regulations through the Cabinet for that formula. Unfortunately, since the advent in 2018 of the new ordinance in its current form, because this ordinance used to be held under the Minister of Finance initially when it was a 60-40 split, but once it migrated to this new ordinance and repealed the last one, it moved to the Minister of Labor. There's no formula that's been recommended. So what we've done after great consultation is we would have made that formula recommendation, and it's being circulated to all persons or all entities and organizations that are currently participating in the service charge ordinance. So it's something that's optional. You're not forced to do it, but once you do it, then you're subjected to any particular formula that is proposed. And I'll pause on what that formula is, but trust me, it's going to be great. It's something that is coming into force this month. So by the end of next month, we anticipate that persons will see a big difference in the service charge they're taking home, because I believe there's been undersharing of the service charge based on the information we've received thus far.
So some people might have a slightly better Christmas?
I think they're going to have an exceptional Christmas by all reports, because we're talking about easily, in most instances, by our calculations or my calculations based on information, persons being short at least $1,000 per month minimum. In some instances, it's probably $2,000, could even be $3,000 in terms of the sums that we're looking at in terms of what's collected, because you can charge service charge on a number of services within any organization, whether it's hotel or restaurant, and that's supposed to be shared amongst essentially all of the employees, right? In some form or fashion, but we've ensured that we've weighted it in such a way that the traditional line staff can get the majority of that service charge. But again, we're talking about something, they might even say this will be a nice Christmas stimulus of sorts. So be patient, persons, and we'll see it. And again, there's additional recommendations that I wouldn't go into that came out of the survey and the stakeholder engagement that we have to take to cabinet. So that cabinet paper is being prepared so we can strengthen the ordinance and the regulations to be able to manage it more properly, right? Because it doesn't make sense we get a formula and we don't put the enforcement arm behind it to be able to ensure that people are getting. So no doubt just automatically by the organizers following the new proposed formula, it will benefit immediately what the employees' take-homes from service charge will be, but also we have to ensure that we put the policing mechanisms in place, ensure that we have the trunk master set up. So that's one of the things we requested, that everybody who's doing service charge send in the trunk master. That is the employee that's designated by employees to manage the distribution. So that person will be the point person for the Labor Department and the management, and of course we can cross-reference with Ministry of Finance Revenue Control Department to ensure that the correct sums are being charged, because again, service charge, which is 10% once charged, flat rate, is similar to the accommodation tax, which might be 11%, so it'll be close to each other. So if we're collecting X amount of millions in accommodation tax from a resort, then we should be collecting similar amounts for service charge from those same resorts that are participating in it. So we're talking about significant sums of money, and that's something we want to ensure that it gets to the right people, i.e. Turks and Caicos Islanders, employees, and all employees in the service industry.
Sounds like I need to get back into a service charge industry.
Maybe, because trust me, I saw, and I ain't gonna call this company name, but they collected over $1.2 million in service charge over the 3 months. And now we're getting into the peak season again, because we're starting to have the ebbs and flows in the tourism season. So imagine your company have $1.2 million to share among maybe 40 employees, 100 employees, what that looks like to your bottom line. That's significant amount of money. If it's 100, that could be like $12,000 just for you over a 3-month period. That you might have only been getting $500 a month over that same period. So it's a significant thing, and we have to ensure that the intent of the legislation is followed through. So in this period, it's not so much making new law, but it's ensuring that the laws that exist are enforced to the benefit of Turks and Caicos Islanders.
Let's stick with that for a bit, Honorable Deputy Premier. Some business owners worry about sustainability and increased operating costs under the service charge bill. How do you respond to those concerns?
Well, there's two things about that. One, the first thing, that it is optional. You don't have to participate in service charge, right? So it's optional. If you decide that, okay, well, that's going to cost my product to cost too much by charging it, then you just go with your tips and gratuity or whatever that makeup is, separate and apart from service charge. But secondly, there's also a provision that is little, it spoke about little, which you can charge a facility fee as well. Because a part of the problem previously with service charge was that the 60-40 split, the 40 was being put to uniforms and other operational costs for the stuff that ain't really had anything to do with the employees, or not necessarily to the employee benefit. Like, I'm wearing your uniform to come to your establishment. I'm not wearing it because I like your threads, kind of thing. So that's where it's separated. So you have an opportunity as an establishment, so charge a maximum 10%, that's a flat rate, but you could charge a 5% facilities fee, which will help you. And I think that is also happening. So that's one of the things we requested to be a part of the reporting process, because we want to ensure that you're not saying in one breath, that, okay, well, service charge is causing my operational costs to go up, but in another breath, you're kind of sneaking in your facilities fee and collecting those funds as well. So again, I think it's, again, to the benefit of the employees, and the consumer pays for it as well. It's not a case that it's a part of your operational cost. It's the consumer that's paying for it. So, so if the consumer spends $100 at your establishment, 10% of that is $10 more. So they carry that burden. So if your product is $90, then that's $9 more. So it really depends on what the value of your product is, but you're not carrying that cost. And, and it's targeted to primarily towards tourists at any rate, who comes here with a big bag of money to spend and enjoy themselves in the Turks and Caicos Islands. And of course, they want to ensure that the persons that are giving them the service actually get taken care of.
So as Minister of Labour, as Deputy Premier, as an all-island elected member of Parliament, do you see this service charge legislation as being a stepping stone to broader or wider wage reforms in TCI?
Well, yes and no, because service charge isn't new. It's been done, I say donkey years previously, but it also is, this is the new iteration of the service charge bill. And many employees could tell you that in the past they would have been getting $2,000 and $3,000 in service charge, and they're now only getting $400 and $500. So that is ensuring that the equity and the distribution takes place is our main priority under the current legislation when it comes to the wage. But also, we would have already done the minimum wage reform, where it's minimum $8 for standard across the board, and I believe it's $9 or $10 for like security services, so you can ensure that persons make closer to a living wage. And of course, in the Ministry of Education, they have the after-school programs, the daycare programs that are subsidized. So when you add all those things together, you can ensure that people have a living wage, or when I say people, primarily Turks and Caicos Islanders, who those programs would be benefiting, that they have a living wage. So we've already looked at globally the pay across, and of course, Turks and Caicos government, about 2 years ago now, going on 2 years, we would have done the pay and grading review for the civil service, which kind of resets the standard of what you need to pay to get quality people. Because in Singapore, which is the former Honorable Harold Child's favorite place, shout out Mr. Honorable Childs, they set their public service pay based on the last 2 to 3 years of what the private sector pay for equivalent roles are. So an executive in Singapore in the private sector will make similar to what public sector make, or vice versa, sorry, public sector executive, like it'll just be a slight lag, so you get the data. So you keep pace with the private sector, so that way, one, you keep the talent in the public sector, two, and you minimize the need for corruption. Because the one thing you don't want is powerful people who are underpaid. Because you'll leverage your power for other things that you ought not to be in. And the idea that, okay, well, you just hope persons are good Samaritans or good Christian men and women, that they just won't yield to temptation when there's so much money's being offered to them to exercise the power that they have, is a bit naive. So that's why that's their model. So now, while we don't strictly use that type of model on the Progressive National Party government, we've done several pay and grading reviews. Honorable Dr. Rufus Ewing did that towards the end of his term. We did it in the middle of our term. We also brought back the 10% for civil servants and a number of other things. So we're continuously looking at how we can improve the benefits package for public servants, which allows us to have the opportunity to get better talent in the service to perform the duties that are assigned.
Let's switch, Honorable Deputy Premier, to immigration. Now that immigration, border and enforcement aspects are consolidated under your portfolio, how do you define your strategic mission, and what is your organizing framework, example, your pillars, enforcement, facilitation, policy, or compliance. What's your strategy now in your Ministry of Immigration?
Well, part of the strategy, I would say, is to ensure that we have, well, not the pillars, but have the policy apparatus, but also the physical and technological advances to allow us to be able to manage our borders, particularly a bit better, as well as the labor force, which is connected to our border management. So I've been talking about this for the last 7 months, but we are this close again to finalizing one more time the digital borders system that we're looking to get, which will cover the border management system, which is a database that will have all the information for everybody that's in country, and that will connect to the national ID, which will be the emphasis for the e-government. So all of that is in one. Like we started ahead of all the e-government stuff, but it'll dovetail because a lot of the products that Home Affairs has will be a big part of the national ID and e-government. So like the birth and death, marriage, PRC, BOTC, all of those other projects, all that will align. Also, we'll have as a feature biometrics, which is important because we need to know who's here, because you can't just trust someone's name or their documents because there's so much of fraud throughout the world. So we want to know when we look you in your eye, that's your eye, right? For lack of a better term, as well as improving our entry spaces where you have to pre-enter, pre-check in before. So the electronic travel authorization, that's something that works very well throughout various countries in the region. And we know you're here legitimately and legally. And once you do that pre-check, we can do your background checks ahead of time before you get in. I think usually before you board a flight, you probably have to do that at least a few hours, but ideally 24 hours is probably better. So anything can be flagged. Say, all right, well, Cheryl Forman is coming through. This is her background, blah, blah, blah. So those are some of the things we're working on. Of course, with labor and from the technology side, the labor management information system that we're looking at implementing as well, so we can manage our labor force even better. So there's some things that are in train that we are very close to doing that will allow us to do our job better, particularly enforcing who can be here. Because again, we have no problem with immigration or migration. Our problem is with illegal immigration, illegal migration. There is a number of persons that need to be in the country to run our economy. There are a number of persons for economic growth, right? We have an idea and we're working on the population policy to finalize what we want that to look like, because we don't want it to have accidental growth. We want it to be specific. So we have to control how much people are here to be able to do that. So the various industries, the various jobs, we want at first to position Turks and Caicos Islanders to take over those things. That's the primary goal. And secondly, we want to ensure we have enough workforce to be able to do that. Right now, we have over 16,000 work permit holders active in country. I would guess that we have anywhere between 8 to 10,000 active Turks and Caicos Islanders in the workforce. I could be wrong, but I'll have to get the stats. But let's call it that. So you're talking about 60-40, literally. 60-40 is a big thing anyway. You need that, right? Literally. So we know we need other persons in the workforce, but what we don't need is inappropriate labor, inappropriate persons just here, because that has a downside too. Because think about it. A labor permit, I believe, let's say regular labor domestic worker, I believe that's like $1,500 a year. So for that $1,500 a year and $50 a month on NHIP, you get full access to all of NIB benefits. You get full access to NHIB benefits, which means if you break a leg for that same $50 a month, you can be flown to Bahamas, Jamaica, DR, Colombia, and if it's worse, the United States. And while we do have reinsurance in place in some of those places, that could cost you thousands of dollars, $50,000 to $100,000, just to have that coverage for 10 months. So if you look at it, $25 a pop for 12 months, that's $300 you pay into the system yourself, plus your 15. So for $1,800 a year, that person can get the benefit of being inside of our perfect, not perfect, but very good healthcare system and NIB system. If you're off, you get your payments. And that's not even included in some instances where persons get their kids into public school, which is why we're looking to crack down on that. And we're in the process of finalizing those tweaks to the way we issue permits. Because even that, now you have free school. What is the value of education? For that same $1,800, or you call it $2,100 because you're paying a similar amount to NIB, right? So the country benefits $2,100, and you benefit near free health care or universal health care, that no matter what happens to you, you're covered. Benefits from the National Insurance Board, which covers maternity, covers sick leave, it covers you being off, all of that. You also, depending on how we, moving forward, let's call it in the past, we ain't worry about the future because we can deal with the future. You also get to benefit from the possibility of free education for your children, 1, 2, 3. What is the value of that education? Thousands and thousands of dollars. So if we don't need that individual in our country, they shouldn't be here. Because it's a drain, it's a net negative on the country versus a net positive. Every single person that comes to the country as a migrant should have a net positive effect on the country, the economy, and the people. Right? We love people. However, you got to be a benefit because you are receiving a benefit. So the benefit you receive, we have to far exceed that. Otherwise,
it's awesome the way you just put that narration, because I didn't think of it that way. So a person who pays TCIG $2,100, like you say, could benefit or cost the government $100,000 or more.
And if it happens more than once, you got to do it again. Because if you re-break your leg, you break it again, you got to go spend $100K again.
Yeah, that's awesome. But I know you're a figures man, and I know mathematics and stats are your forte, so I hope I get my numbers right. In July alone, just July, your ministry reported detaining 304 individuals and repatriating 460, plus interception of 2 migrant boats, 194, and 62 persons. How do you interpret those numbers, Honorable Robinson, in terms of mission success versus deterrence?
Well, it's a combination, right? Because some of those numbers are interceptions. So that's the Police Marine Branch, that's Regiment, that's U.S. Coast Guard doing their protection on the water. We bring them in, process them, send them out.
Right.
That's exceptional. And Turks and Caicos government over the years has been exceptional in stopping the sloops, slowing the sloops. We can't stop them from launching, but we can catch them in our waters, and we've been very successful with sloops over the years. The other part of the number, which is the on-the-ground captures or detainments, those are what I'm most interested in, right? Because in the recent Operation Balance and the stuff, we would have done like 50 each day. We would have been on at least 50 persons we would have caught,
and
right?
We've seen quite a few of those operations.
So we know that persons are getting in because it's a porous border.
Yes,
You're talking about 40 islands and keys, water every direction. We can't. There are ways where some of it gets through. Fine, but for us, persons have to know a couple things. One, they're in the Turks and Caicos Islands as an illegal. Once you're illegal, it is our job to ensure that you're illegal until you're caught. Once you're illegal, it's our job to let you know we're coming to get you. Might not catch you today, might not catch you tomorrow, might not catch you next year, but we coming to get you. And the reason why I say we have to ensure that they stay legal, because these persons try to get regularized.
Right, yes.
Which is why the freeze on visas and the freeze on work permits, first-time work permits are important, because those persons for the next 6 months, or for the incorporation from the start of it to the end, we are certain that those persons can't get regularized if they're illegal in the country. And with the operations that we're doing, we have a greater chance at what? Catching them and repatriate them. And this is something I want to speak to Turks and Caicos Islanders. Do not participate in facilitating the regularization of illegal migrants, because oftentimes it's a Turks and Caicos Islander's name that's attached to a permit for a person that's in Haiti, but they're here. There's persons who facilitate getting stamps in the passport to say, no, they're not on the island, when they're right there in Duck Yacht. Yeah. Applying as if they're not in, and then they get the permit, and then boom, wow, they're here. Yeah. Got their stamp, and now they're regularized. But guess what? And this is where the technology comes in. So let's use that same person. Let's say they somehow get through the labor process, get their work permit. They came in illegally. So they go away, jump on a plane, they leave, or about to leave. Now with the ETA system that they have to go in, be like, hey, John Doe, how you get in this country? You here and you leaving, but when you come in? Because there's no record of you coming in, because you came in on a sloop. So now we can catch you then. So again, now if you don't leave the country, you get through. You're now. Good. You get through. But man, you want to go visit your family, you want to travel, you want this, but so once you get, we pick you up. We're like, hey, swoop, whether on the front end or the back end, because we can let you leave and then let you come back in, but we flag you. Because with the technology, we flag persons. All right, John Doe coming on XYZ flight, boom, boom, boom. They can be there, set up this thing. As soon as they walk through that corridor, police waiting on them, immigration waiting on them, put them in the little hole, and then deal with them. So that's why all these technologies marrying together. So at the end of the day, we're setting up a case, a structure to ensure that, again, we love legal migration. Come through the front door, come through the right way. That's what we want to see. But if you're illegal, we have to make sure it's hard for you to exist in the country, because we can't stop you completely from trying to get in. If you get in, it has to be so uncomfortable and so disruptive that it is a case where you say, you know what, I might as well wait till I can get in legitimately. And that goes for all non-Turks and Caicos Islander citizens. It's not just our friends in the South. It is all. So when we say we're coming for all, we're coming for all.
It sounds like you've been working, Honorable Minister.
Yeah, it had been done. That's why I had to come. I had to do something before I could come sit with you. You know, I couldn't just come and say, "Hey, I want." Now I saying this is what we've done. This is how we're progressing. This is where we are. So we're getting closer. And again, it's I'm gonna say it's a challenge, but it's time consuming. It takes time to get these mechanisms in place. But once they're in place, we get it set up appropriately, it's going to be the benefit of all. So even persons who might be upset when the Labor Department or the board says, no, you can't have a work permit holder, then they appeal to the minister and the minister says, no, you can't have that work permit holder. It's for, you might be mad with me now, might be mad with my department now, but it's probably for the benefit down the road, because certain people we don't need. And particularly if I see appeal coming and the refusal is the person has not shown sustainable work for this individual, why bring them in here? Why bring them in if it's not demonstrated? Now, if you have work for this person, you ensure that they can take care of themselves. They're not loafing around people, establishments trying to find work, this, that, and the third. You know what I mean? Yeah. And plus, again, we would have systems in place which allows you to have multiple employers in terms of domestics and labor. So you don't have each individual having a domestic or a laborer when the work is minimal
Yeah.
for you. Like, how much times can you clean your house?
Yep.
And it needs to be, I mean, like in the hours. Like, if it's up cap, you're not going to need it a lot. So maybe multiple people can utilize that person. You know, we want to make sure all that's done and regularized properly, because people do it anyway. Oh, okay, let me your cleaner, let me your this,
Yeah,
let me your
yeah.
that. We want to ensure that it isn't okay. Well, you're saying, well, John Doe or Jane Doe isn't to Cheryl or Zoya's or Jamell's house down the road. They go and do their own thing. And I find them at that particular location and pick them up, and you say, well, I know. I'd be like, hey, this your person. What they doing here?
Yes. Yeah.
You hold a work permit, so that can get you in trouble. And we're going to get to the place where we're not only dealing with the work permit holder who breaks the law, but we're going to have to ensure we find ways to deal with the holder of the work permit, because they kind of facilitate that as well. So we have to take another little peep at the legislation just to make sure that those provisions exist, and if it doesn't, then we'll have to put it in.
Yeah. You gave me a great segue, Honorable Deputy Premier. Immigration and border management are now at the heart of your portfolio. But how do you reconcile, and I know you've told us, but maybe tell us again, how do you reconcile protecting our borders with the reality that some of our own citizens are complicit in illegal immigration?
Well, for me, and I didn't know why the Premier chose to give me this portfolio at first. I was like, yo, what's this about, man? I was like, everything done. I sure what to be done, you know, because a lot of these things that we're following through now that's been on the books are just close to completion under the last Minister, Honorable Arlington Musgrove. So, you know, appreciate the setting up the ministry nicely, like bringing Border Force together, which is Immigration and Customs. So I was like, all right, what am I going to do? I think it's to ensure, I'm here to ensure that it's Turks and Caicos first, right? You have Turks and Caicos Islanders and non-Turks and Caicos Islanders that are 100% for Turks and Caicos Islands. And then you have non-Turks and Caicos Islanders and some Turks and Caicos Islanders that are not for Turks and Caicos Islanders. My job is to ensure that those that are for Turks and Caicos Islanders, Turks and Caicos, win. Because it is a fight, it is a struggle. It is day-to-day individual decisions, one by one. It is holding to a principle that it's about your country first over the individual relationship that you might have. For example, after the shutdown of the first-time work permits and first-time visas, supporters, friends, family members who were in the process of submitting their applications, right? Like literally it might have been in the day of, and then it's like, oh, I'll come back, and they, you know, they were, then tomorrow there was no tomorrow, right? So they gave and I was like, I would love to assist you, but if we do that, we're going to compromise the whole system.
Yeah.
Because people who want to exploit, they would say, well, you let this one come in and bring their applications. What about mine?
Yeah.
And how are you going to determine which ones are genuine, which I believe the persons that came to us they were genuine. But what about the others that are going to want to exploit? Say, hey, but what about me? So y'all let them in, and you got to let my stuff in, then it will defeat the purpose. So those are the decisions that are uncomfortable that you have to continuously make, because all of it adds up. And what we have to do is continue to communicate to our people, because we can't do nothing but take silence. We here, this is our piece of rock. But we all have to be on the same page. So where you think you're getting one little exception for you by allowing a work permit holder to slide through, by allowing a person who might not qualify for a particular product to get it, because, all right, that's a good person. All of this adds up, because if you times it by 10,000, if you times it by 20,000 of those little personal decisions, it has an impact. And there's a reason we're here. It's those little decisions coming back to the fore, because the person who would have been on a domestic or a labor permit for 9 years that barely had work, and you upgrade their work permit in their last year to a painter, a carpenter, that person gets a different type of PRC. That person gets a PRC that he can put his wife on, his children on. So now you let this person slack boat for 9 years, 10 years, 15 years. They switch it, leverage the system. Now they're a permanent resident of Turks and Caicos Islands. A year after that, they're a BOT citizen. Couple years after that, they're a what? Turks and Caicos Islander citizen. But you didn't think about that decision 10 years ago because you thought that the system, which is made up of us, the people, would have caught it. And then the result of that is you have not all, but you have a significant number of accidental citizenship type people in your country, and we're like, but how come? No, it was that. It started right there.
Yeah.
So for me, my mindset is always, okay, well, what is the long-term impact? What is the long-term impact? How much can we take? Assessing continuously, because at the end of the day, we have to have a net positive in anything we do. So it doesn't mean I used to Grinch, even though here it's the Grinch and everything shut down and nobody getting this out of immigration and labor and everything tight. There's instances where the case makes sense, so you allow it. But that has to be few in between, and it has to make sense for us long term, because again, it must be a net positive. That's how you get progress. It must be a positive. Otherwise, you get regression. I'm saying go forward ever, backward never. All right, yeah, that was a campaign slogan for somebody one time.
Well, let me put this plug in for you. While you may think that you're a Grinch in that area, we just discussed the service bill, so you're a Santa Claus then.
Yeah, man.
So it kind of works out.
Yeah, man. Take with one hand, but give plenty in the other hand.
But, Honorable Minister of Immigration, what would you say is your greatest or your biggest operational challenge in the fight against illegal immigration? Is it maritime capacity? Is it staffing? Is it technology? Is it corruption? Because public opinion is that there are a number of scams and corruptive actions that happen in immigration.
I think the biggest challenge is staffing. Because, put it to you like this, and I believe this to be the case, but I didn't get the exact number. But what I do know is that in 2012, which would have been after the interim administration, you would have had Lehman Brothers in 2008, so the country turning around, making on an upward climb. We would have had somewhere around 4,000 to 6,000 work permit applications for the whole country back then. I was a member of the immigration board, I think like 2013, 2014. I had the opportunity to serve. Now we're up to 16,000. And the staff is similar. So you've added a workload of an additional 10,000 permits alone to process. But the staff is similar. So that will automatically derive challenges. Right? Now we're moving towards the APS system. I believe that is supposed to launch or has launched by now, where you can do your stuff online to minimize the paperwork that happens where we're doing data entry on behalf of persons. So decisions can be made faster, but that's a big part of the challenge, right? Because it's tough to hold persons to account for certain levels of efficiency if they're facing mountains and mountains and mountains of work. And you got to remember as well, the backbone of just about everything, like your SICTAS, your Smart Stream, and all of these antiquated old systems, right, is what is propping up those services. So when somebody says to you the machine is down, or the computer down, like the machine, so SICTAS down or Smart Stream down, and they can't print a receipt, is that legitimate or is it not legitimate? So how do you know the difference? So you can be accused of corrupt acts and all of these things when it's just the systems are just outdated. So this is why getting to e-governance and making those processes simplified is very, very important. Otherwise, no matter what we do, how high we jump, how efficient, if you're always disrupted by things that don't have anything to do with you, the effectiveness and the efficiency of my ministry will be minimized. And we're always looking at ways to improve. Get me? We look at what we are, like we know where we are, so we see how we can maximize our efficiency with who we have. Because again, at the end of the day, and I said this to my team, listen, I want a solid 8 hours work from each individual. Tell me what that level of work looks like, so I know what to tell other people who need services. So if a process takes half an hour to complete, and we have 100 of those to do between 6 staff, then it should take 5 days, 6 days, 7 days. It can't be that is what the minimum standard is, and it's taking 2 months, 6 months. Like, what are the critical pathways? So that was the first thing that I would have asked for, and I believe I would have received recently. What are the critical pathways for all of our processes? Because I want to know what is the reasonable timelines that the people can expect with the resources we have. Yes, we need more people, but you have to demonstrate to me as well that you are maximizing the people that you do have. You can't be, I'm just going to throw my hands up and just do minimalist work, because you're going to be paid maximum money at the end of each month. Nobody ain't cutting your money short for the productivity. And I think what we have to get to, and that's just a public service thing in general, is to ensure that all of our service areas, because it is the public service, we have, I think it's called like, not public service charters, but like charters that service level agreements on each of our products. So we can know that, all right, well, hey, for this particular product, it's a 3-week wait. It's a 1 week wait. It's 24 hours wait. It's 3 months, or whatever the case may be, because I don't think the public has a problem with any waiting. It's the uncertainty of the wait. Especially when you're hearing others are getting these services quicker than you, or they're paying or giving lunch, or all these rumors that take place and surround what's happening in the service in general. But if you say, all right, well, it's going to take 3 weeks to get a birth certificate, and it takes 3 weeks, you're fine. You don't really care whether or not a person gets it in 1 week. It's not your business. They said to you, the service level agreement, 3 weeks it is, and 2 weeks and 6 days you get it. You even get a day earlier. Wow, boom, you're happy. But it can't be, sometimes it takes 3 weeks, sometimes it takes 6 weeks, sometimes it takes 6 months, sometimes paperwork is lost, and all of these things that you hear about what's taking place in the service, and which is why going on the online platform is important, because it be stored in the cloud. So you can't lose well, you could lose it, but with the appropriate backups, of course, you have it available, and the timestamp, as you mentioned, is important. First in, first out, right? And to us as well as policy makers, we have to respect that as well, because sometimes it's us who's asking people to jump the line. And people, let me tell you the thing about it, right? People are very smart at securing themselves. If the boss asks you for something, you can go deal with the boss stuff to get the boss off your back. So the boss must always think you're an efficient person, because the boss, whoever he or she may be, policymaker or not, wherever up the chain, must be able to go to bat for you when it's time to say, hey, fish or cut bait. So the boss got to be like, no, man, who you talking about? What? That person is excellent. Every time I ask them for, I get it. That's you. What about the other 99% of the times? Right? Which is why the service level agreements are important for all products and services government has available.
Just before we switch subjects, Honorable Deputy Premier, we mentioned Turks and Caicos Islanders being complicit in some of these illegal processes. How widespread is it? Is it just a few bad actors, or is it a systemic issue? And I want you to speak directly to those Turks and Caicos Islanders as a son of the soil, to tell us how very disloyal that is to our country.
Well, First thing, if you participate in any foolishness, cut your foolishness out. Seriously now, it's time to build this country properly. Because anywhere that you see illegal or criminal activity, for the most part, I believe a majority of the times that is connected in some way to a Turks and Caicos Islander to help facilitate. Because you can't operate in another man's country free of the law without somebody hiding and couching and giving you cover. So whether that's a small person watching on the lookout, hey, something coming, hey, they go on operation tonight, don't go down in the hole, whatever that is, whatever that network is, I think we're involved. So if we're involved in creating and facilitating, our involvement in the solution is also possible. So I don't believe that there's no type of ailment that this country faces that we as Turks and Caicos Islanders can't solve. The notion is, or the Bible says, I believe it says, that God never gives you a problem that's beyond your wisdom to solve, or that he can't give you the wisdom to solve. So every problem we've created, we have the ability to solve. So that's what helps me to sleep good at night and not worry about where we are and focus on dealing with where we are, but always have an eye on where we need to go into the future.
Honorable Robinson, you know, we the people, voters, are the biggest critics of our politicians. And we often have a lot to say. You've positioned yourself as a leader who speaks directly, who sometimes rather bluntly, but how do you ensure that this tough talk translates into effective policy and isn't just viewed as rhetoric?
Well, I think the first thing is I don't want to be a hypocrite. Now, prior to being a frontline politician, when I was, even though I'm still a TCI patriot and an activist and a lover of country and all of that, man, I was reading some of my newspaper clips from back there when I was relocating, and I had some tough talk about people and their tough talk, right? So I don't want to be a hypocrite. So I don't want you to say, do as I say. I want you to do as I do. And I want to do as I've said others should do, now that the people have given me the opportunity to serve under the leadership of Honorable Charles Washington Misit. That's important to me, that I'm not a hypocrite, not for the world, but for me, right? I need to know that, okay, well, I've stood on principle. I've attempted to do what I've said I'm doing. Again, it's a collective responsibility of all of us, so you may not get everything you want done the exact way you want because other people have ideas, but at the end of the day, as I've said previously, once it's a net benefit to the people of the country, then that's a positive. We might not go all the way, I want to go do this, boom, boom, boom. Might not happen. But if we get 2/3 of the way, 3/4 of the way, that's a positive. Let's progress. Because at the end of the day, every nation, including the Turks and Caicos Islands, is a work in progress. We're trying to get better. We're trying to move forward into the future.
Have you noticed, talking about some of your old articles, how very consistent your message has been? Some of the things you said 5 years ago are almost the exact words you're using today. So that consistency, what does it mean that you're really, for me, it sounds like you're really committed and convinced of what you've been saying.
Right, I think I believe this stuff. Like literally, I literally believe this stuff. I literally believe that the best worker in the Turks and Caicos Islands is a Turks and Caicos Islander. Given the opportunity, we want persons trained and given the ability to move. This is our country. We have a limited number of Turks and Caicos Islanders for the type of economy we have. They need to be in middle and senior management roles. Period, point blank. That doesn't mean they can't start lower and move up, but at the end of the day, we need to be calling the shots in industry. I believe the Turks and Caicos entrepreneur is the next big boom for Turks and Caicos. Ownership. No sense bringing in a $1.2 billion hotel if Turks and Caicos Islanders aren't going to participate at 30, 40, 50% of that activity. Right? Makes no sense. If we're bringing in new industries and have existing industries, we should be at the forefront and the cutting edge of it.
Yeah.
So it's ownership, it's about mobility, it's about trend setting. I believe that's where we are and ought to be. So with every ministry that I've had and every role that I've had, and I've had many, that's what I bring.
Yeah.
See how you could do it. And again, it's a privilege to be in cabinet. People really don't get it because it's a privilege because, yes, you have a ministry, but you also have an opportunity to comment and contribute on policies and legislation
Right.
for everything that happens. Again, you might not get what you particularly personally want, but you have an opportunity to lobby on behalf of the people of the Turks and Caicos Islands to move the needle in a certain direction.
Yeah. Our colleague and co-host, Honorable Robert Hall, host of Expressions, often grades ministries. Ultimately, how will you measure success in your current portfolio? What would success look like for you?
Well, success would look like for me, one, the people in the service industry getting significant more money than they are now. So service charge, we're working on that. That's eminent and ensuring that that works properly for them going forward. It also looks like a better labor force with Turks and Caicos Islands, and Turks and Caicos Islanders have real opportunity that's measurable. One of the things in my conversation with the
TCHDA.
Turks and Caicos Hotel and Tourism
Yes.
Association was that, listen, I want to see in the next 2 years, let alone 5 years, significant upward mobility of Turks and Caicos Islanders. If you have those persons, those stars, or those examples already in place, show us them. We will help you promote them because lack of knowledge or lack of information often is the reason why people feel the way they feel. And it's more than just tourism. They're the biggest industry, but I'm trying to tie down the banking association because from feedback I've gotten, that's the problem there with Turks Islanders getting opportunities. Right? I'm supposed to try and have a meeting, I believe this week, with the Contractors Association, Turks and Caicos Islanders. We're tying down that time because I want to know what their challenges are in the labor market. As contractors, subcontractors, we have all this stuff happening. How are you participating? What are your needs? Do you have enough Turks and Caicos Islanders, carpenters, this, that, and the third? That feeds into what we need to be doing from a schooling standpoint. And if you don't have it, can you source them from our neighbors or further afield to be competitive? Because at the end of the day, we want you to be at the forefront and you develop the product. Back in the day, when you see a big piece of infrastructure building, you could know that for that 2 to 3 years, that TI family doing excellent if you name contractor. Now you just hearing about scraps and this and that. You just throwing people. No man, that ain't it. If you need them for 2 years, 3 years, they come in, they do what the project is. They need to leave. If you don't have something to jump onto, then you start again, and then you scale down to your bare needs. And if you need to speed up again, you do that while also again paying forward whatever graces you would have been given to other Turks and Caicos Islanders, giving them the opportunities.
For our last few minutes, and I remember saying at the beginning of this conversation we would go past an hour. You recently attended the International Labour Organization conference. What were the major themes or takeaways from that conference, and how are they relevant to TCI?
Well, one of the major takeaways that I would have had as an observer, because we are observers under the UK banner, was that first and foremost, some countries got some real labor problems. Comparatively speaking, we are not so bad. We are not perfect, but our disputes are manageable, which is why it's like it almost gave a refresh of like, you know what, man, this is doable. Another thing that was highlighted, the importance of tripartite engagement, which is government, employers, and employees. We have to look at employee entities. So whether that's associations like the Civil Service Association, Electrical Association, the Contractors Associations, or outright unions, employees need representation. Yes, you have the government that often is tasked with ensuring that employers don't take advantage of employees, but in more advanced countries, the government is a separate, it's almost like the arbiter or the referee to ensure that labor relations are positive. So you have the tripartite with all three engaging to ensure that you can progress. But separate from that, because I know persons would have heard that we want to review the employment ordinance.
Right.
And that's something that I anticipate Honorable Jamaica leading on behalf of my ministry as my counterpart, right? Honorable Williams, Jamaica Williams,
Yes.
right? We had an opportunity to engage the head of the Caribbean office, Johnny, the Caribbean ILO office, International Labor Organization office, and he happened to be coming down to Turks and Caicos for a Social Security's conference at the end of the month with NIB. And he's going to engage with us, organizing stakeholder meetings. So hopefully we can get all the technical expertise from the ILO directly to be able to help us do this and go through this process over the next 6 months to a year to improve our employment ordinance. So that's an opportunity that had I not gone or had the team not gone, we might have missed out on. Right, or we would have had to just be trying to call people via phone or emails, but now you have a face. So when Minister Robinson picks up the phone to talk to Johnny from the ILO Caribbean, it's like, we can have that dialogue. And the last thing, which is just as important, we had an opportunity, myself and Minister Jason Haywood from Bermuda, we had an opportunity to speak with the Director General of the ILO, so the big dog, to be able to speak about overseas territory participation, because about 10 to 12 years ago, because of an incident at one of the African regional meetings, overseas territories, or so like the United Kingdom and France and those countries that had overseas territories, they were forbidden from being able to participate in more than one meeting of the region. So you have several regions. You got Asia, you got the Americas, you got Europe, Africa, straight long, right? Pacific. You got straight long. So they could only participate in one. So what the reality was for us on the ground, we would only be able to be observers as opposed to being close to a full government member. So we are part of government, but we weren't able to participate on the floor and make injections and make speeches and give updates on what's taking place in our countries, right? Because the UK would ordinarily participate in the European regional meeting. So that's something that the DG is committed to fix and start the dialogue so we can see how best that we can participate, even if not vote. We'll be able to participate more fully as a part of the conference. So I think overall it was a positive experience being over in Punta Cana.
Yeah. So here's this Minister of Labor from a small territory sitting in a room with global leaders and labor experts. How did you feel? And you mentioned some of the discussions that you realized that Turks and Caicos, our labor issues are manageable. But is there anything that stood out most to you?
Well, the thing that stood out most to me is that we belong. because there was nothing that was being discussed that I believe was over my head or the team's head. I believe that if we were given the opportunity to participate, like with speeches and interjections on the floor, I think we had a story to tell with preparation on what's taking place. I think we have an experience that's unique for us, but similar for the region, that we can tell. I think this is stuff we can be on the world scene, and having that dialogue. I think we have a contribution to make to the world, and I think that was very apparent by listening and participating and having those side discussions with persons and engaging with our counterparts, because you're talking about representatives from North America, Central America, South America, so the entire Americas. So Americas and the Caribbean labor ministers coming together. So you're talking about being in a United Nations style environment or event where you're talking the focus being about labor. So I think simply we belong.
Yeah. Here's a question from one of our viewers. It says, for the average Turks and Caicos Islander, why should they care about your presence at conferences like this one? How does it translate into real benefits for us?
Well, to reiterate again, the fact that we were there, as well as Bermuda participated, it allows us to directly connect with the movers and shakers to be able to get technical expertise, and likely technical expertise for free, because the UK would be a paying member state into the ILO organization. So each member state would make their contribution, their annual subscription. And from that subscription, the ILO would make technical programs available to each particular country that's involved. Now, a part of what's going to happen when the Caribbean lead, head of the Caribbean office comes here, we'll discuss setting up our ILO program for the Turks and Caicos Islands. Now, would the opportunity have been missed if he just came and then we started the discussions once they got here, versus us being able to engage him in the region and get that going ahead of time? Additionally, with the engagement with the Director General of the ILO as well, having that discussion, now we're going to be, as overseas territories, Dutch, French, English, and everyone else in between who would have the exact same experience as us. That engagement allows everyone to benefit, not just Turks and Caicos, not just Bermuda. So when Cayman participates again, when BVI participates, when St. Helena participates, Anguilla participates, when the ABC Islands participates, when Martinique, St. Martin, when all of these overseas territories participate in these forums, now they'll be able to step forward and make their contributions direct on the floor. Again, even if they aren't a voting member in the resolutions at the end, but at least it's your participation and your engagement that'll be increased. So you're talking about, again, when I say we belong, because we're able to be on the stage and get the type of results we want. And that can't happen by just being here in the Turks and Caicos Islands or making a phone call. You need to see people, you need to engage them directly, because unfortunately, everything is about relationships and connections. So you have to be there to make the connections. So we just have to be
is important.
Exactly. You just have to be wise about where you go to spend your time and what the goal was when you go. Because I could tell you, my main goal was to find the ILO people and find out who can help us with this technical support to review the employment ordinance. And everything else was a bonus.
Honorable Robinson, as we start to wrap up, looking ahead to the next 12 to 24 months, what would you say are your top 3 priorities for Immigration and Border Services?
Implementation of the Digital Borders Project. Digital borders must come, it must happen. That's the first thing. Second thing, improvements with implementation of the labor management information system, and might give more than more than three, but
okay.
yeah. Enforcement operations. They must continue on a regular and continuous basis. Some will be joint operations, some will be just task force alone. They must happen, because the only way we're going to get where we need to go is we have to disrupt the status quo of what's taking place. Until we get the new status quo, we have to disrupt the current, so people are always on their back foot, until we have the policies and the technology in place to be able to better manage how we deliver our services. And lastly, and I haven't spoken about this a lot, the Immigration Policy Population Council Committee has been working over the last several years. They would have done a lot of work on the immigration ordinance, making recommendations, doing the consultations. That's going to be coming into fruition very soon. And the last major piece of work that they have is for the population policy. So that is a part of our roadmap from an immigration labor standpoint on where we want to go from a human and migration resource standpoint. So that direction. So we're going to be getting an update very shortly from a cabinet standpoint on where they are with their work. That's a very, very important piece of work that's taking place. So once we have that, that will tie in very nicely to everything else we're doing. That kind of be like the thing to sit on top of all of those, because again, once we know who we want in the country from a population direction, we know how to deal with them at the borders, data management. We know how to deal with them in terms of the enforcement, who should be here, who shouldn't be here, and we know how to deal with them with the labor management information system. So that's kind of a catch-all. So 3 in 1, how about that?
Pretty good, pretty good. Now, we all know that you serve at the pleasure of the Premier as Deputy Premier and Minister of Immigration and Border Services. Barring no cabinet shuffles, how would you like the people of the Turks and Caicos Islands to view your tenure as Minister of Immigration and Border Services the next 5 years?
Barring a cabinet shuffle, as you would have said, I would like them to view my tenure as Minister of Immigration and Border Services to be seen as that I gave the country an opportunity to reset itself. We've had various waves of immigration, illegal migration, all of that over the last decade and change. So we had the boom of the Mike Mizik period, then the crash, the Lehman Brothers interim administration, so labor would have dropped, then we had the coming back up, then we would have had COVID, so it's been a roller coaster. It's about right now resetting and getting us to a place where we're positioned for exponential growth for Turks and Caicos Islanders specifically. Somebody got to be on the front line to allow the other ministries to be able to function and operate properly. So we need a secure country, and being a member of the National Security Council myself as Minister of Immigration and Border Services. So contributing to that apparatus to make sure our national security is secure, as well as ensuring that Turks and Caicos Islanders get their opportunities. So if I can do that as Minister of Immigration and Border Services, I think I would have done well for my reputation, as well as done well for the Turks and Caicos Islands.
Honorable Deputy Premier, we've sat here for a while now, but I've got a curveball for you.
Curveball. I used to play softball, so I might be able to hit it.
Is the Honorable Jamell Robinson arrogant? Does he think he's better than other people? Does he answer his telephone? Who is Jamell Robinson?
Well, Jamell Robinson is still that little good street boy with cute parentage, right? I just think I might be a bit misunderstood, and I think anybody that may call me arrogant in the present, in 6 months when they understand any decisions I would have made, would say otherwise. Because in an environment where politicians are usually people pleasers, because popularity is that's how you win and keep keep your position. Taking principled stands can often come across as, hey, what's that about?
Yeah.
It may come across as aloof. Is he saying he's better than people? Why isn't he grounding? Why is he acquiescing? Particularly if you have examples where others might have acquiesced in that situation where you aren't doing.
Yeah.
But again, for me, it's about the long term, what each individual decision is in the present and how it impacts the future. So I'm always forward looking. Might be a dreamer. I'll take a dreamer, but I'm very practical, and it might just be different.
Yeah.
So if you
I
can't
think
describe the
conviction
difference,
and confidence too can come across
Right, and
like that.
yeah,
You're
exactly.
awfully confident about what you do, and you speak it with conviction. I think
Right.
that is misunderstood.
Yeah, and again, like you would have mentioned earlier, I've been saying the same things I said 5 years ago, I'm saying now.
Yep.
And these are the same things I've said 10 years ago, and even 15 years ago. So I'm fine-tuned. So so real confidence and confidence can sometimes be construed as arrogance, and I understand that. So I don't mind what persons might say. It's about the result, because I would take an arrogant person who gives me results versus a non-arrogant person that isn't delivering for me. Not that I'm arrogant, but I'm just saying I want the results.
Well said, well said. We're just about ready to go, Deputy Premier. So take the last minute, talk to Turks and Caicos.
Thank you, Cheryl, Ms. Forman. Thank you for having me again. It's been some time. I think it's the first time I've been on the show in this new term.
Yes.
So that's good. You know, I'm normally a regular, so I'd probably be a regular again. So again, Turks and Caicos, this is about building our country. We're not perfect. We have growth opportunity. We are in an evolving society, and what we need as a government is we need your support, we need your prayers, we need your partnership. We can do this together, that every Turks and Caicos Islander can have the opportunity to grow. Whatever your dream profession, whatever your path is, I think there's an opportunity that the government can assist you with and be a partner with you. Because again, if we don't build this country, somebody else will build it for us. So have a great day, and thank you very much. And it's always a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Honorable Deputy Premier. Always a pleasure to have you. And like you said, don't be a stranger this term. We'd love to have you back.
All right, no problem.
This has been First Edition with the Honorable Deputy Premier and Minister of Immigration and Border Services, the Honorable Jamell Robinson. We'll see you next week.